brothers and sisters. I wanted to clarify before we get started. We're going to be doing a crypto, probably touch on the dinar. We might even talk about pu'er tea or black tea. We don't exactly know. We're getting to know each other a little better, and it's really fun. I also want to before I tell my little story, I want to just emphasize the fact that I begged Big Bird to come online, and he said under no conditions would he even think about it, consider it. And I said, okay, I'm holding open to the Tuesday slot if you ever change your mind. And thank God he did. So we're really, really lucky to have Big Bird and Montimus. I mean, this is a collection. We're going to talk about crypto at length. I was going to mention something. I already forgot what it was, so I'm sure it'll pop up later. But let's start. I just want to start because we are in a very exciting point. Let me get to this. The chat's going here. Oh, here we go. Algo, yeah, Algorand. I've been holding Algorand for years. I traded a batch of Algorand for a long time. XLM and Algorand were at the same price point, so I would go back and forth between Algorand and XLM, and yeah, okay. So that's another point. I'm going to play this short clip, and we'll start from here. If I can get there we go. Okay. What happened to it? It just.
Hi, Adrian.
I just showed it to Big Bird, and then I lost it. Let's go a little bigger.
We had a bunch of talking points that I think would just easily consume the show.
Yeah, I don't know if we need this, but it was basically the point of the clip was that crypto is really starting to fly. I don't know if somebody might have the old sun is back. Okay, it was right up here. Read that again. Single greatest table flip. Here we go. I think it was this one. Well, the math behind $16,000 gold. All right, so I'll skip it because I think we probably have more information between the three of us than anything. But the point is that it's possible that crypto is starting to rage. At least a lot of cryptos are raging. We want to know where this is going. They're talking about $16,000 an ounce gold. The dinar is being talked about quite a bit. So I'll just leave it to Big Bird and Montimus to expand on some of these areas.
Well, let me kick it off with the nuclear bomb that was posted about 13 or 14 hours ago on X. Crypto Tice posted, and he said, Democrats and Republicans are meeting today to finalize the Clarity Act. And if, for those of you in the audience that aren't familiar with the Clarity Act, last summer there was the Genius Act, which was for stable coins. The Clarity Act basically is an all-encompassing for all cryptos, with the exception of stable coins. So they've only had it on the Senate floor or on the Senate radar for like the last year since they passed the Clarity Act in the Congress last summer. You know, I was fully expecting to see this thing get passed and signed into law last October, no later than November, and here we are going into middle of July, end of July, and it's still not done. But I think the pressure's on, and here's why. Russia it just passed their version of the Clarity Act. India, Japan, their infrastructure is already in place, and there's a couple of others. I think Brazil and there's one other, but the big major players. I think China. So we're talking like the BRICS nations. They've got their Clarity Acts done, or they've already got the infrastructure in place. So what I'm alluding to is, well, Trump's been talking about we're going to be the crypto capital of the world. Well, we don't have a Clarity Act signed. It's not even finalized. It's not even up for a vote yet. Not yet, but it's coming. What I researched just before we started the live here, They're pushing in the Senate to try and get the Clarity Act to the Senate floor for a vote before they go on recess on or about August 8th to the 10th. So what do you think about that, fellas?
So there was supposed to be a significant mile marker on the Clarity Act this past Friday, and it got pushed. It keeps getting bumped, and I find that curious. Is it's getting bumped because it's synchronized with some other potential timing, or is it just getting put on the back burner for some reason? Any ideas on that?
If I had to,
No,
go ahead, Ellie.
No, I'm just saying, yeah, it's clearly that they're timing this with other things. I mean, I consider this part of the movie. I don't really consider it a serious occurrence in that respect. Like the Clarity Act is going to get passed and everything changes. It's just part of this theatrics that. But yeah, they and I think it could be timed with the Dinar. I don't know. I mean, they're waiting for the Dinar. I think they're going to come out with a bit of an explosive occurrence, but I don't think it's going to be mind-boggling. I think it's going to be kind of like maybe that's really the idea here, is that they're kind of slow walking it into reality.
I think it would be amazing if it was, and of course everything has to do with timing. It's all about timing. You know, I see people in other posts like, oh, wait, there hasn't been any arrests, and there's people committing all this crime, and da 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 da, and you know, and then the saner heads, the calmer ones, come out and they say it's all about timing, not the military's timing, not Congress's timing, Trump's timing.
And there have been a few arrests. They're just not the public ones yet.
Well, I think there's a lot of stuff that's been going on in the background. I think we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, where who was it? The Dells. They made a $6.25 billion donation to the Trump funds for the kids. Well, I found that rather ominous. It was huge. And then the SpaceX president or CEO, whatever her name is, she and her husband are donating something like $300 million in SpaceX stocks to the Trump funds. This is not like by happenstance, like, hey, we're just going to do this out of the goodness of our hearts. No, it's hey, do this or we're going to come down on you like a ton of bricks. And by the way, here we've got affidavits and sealed indictments just waiting for you. So make a choice. That's what I think.
I think that's a brilliant point. Because you're really reading between the lines, and yeah, I agree with you. It's just, I think I personally feel that there have been a lot of arrests. I think you don't see anything from Hollywood. They were such loudmouths, and you really don't hear anything from anyone like the old days, like when Trump was first elected in 2016. Everybody had, all these creepazoids had something to say about everything.
Well,
Ellen and all these other people, you don't hear from them.
Yeah, well, to that point, Ellie, and I was listening to And We Know this morning on the way to an appointment, and they were talking about that new Odyssey movie, right? The Helen of Troy is not a beautiful Caucasian woman. It's a black tranny. And
in that movie?
Yeah. It's like,
that's appalling.
What are you guys trying to do here? They're trying to push this woke agenda. Now, they took it a step further, and what was really interesting is the movie's already $400 million in the hole. And people were going to, I think it was Rotten Tomatoes website, and they were looking at like, okay, well, what's the reviews? And people were typing in like, oh, the movie was awful. And then it never made it. So they're scanning these reviews, and if they're trash, they kick them out, and they're just looking for the good ones. So you're getting a small percentage that are, raving about this new movie, like, oh yeah, the portrayal of Helena Troy was phenomenal. I thought it was great that we had a person of color that's, putting on this wonderful acting. Stop it.
Wow.
Now here's another takeaway was movie theaters were like bracing for, this big influx of moviegoers because they were getting sold out shows. But then when patrons were actually showing up to the theaters, they're like, yeah, I had to choose these really crappy seats in the back of the theater, but there was nobody in the theater. It's like, what's going on? So somebody
That's
somewhere
curious.
is making purchases of these movie tickets, and they're trying to pump this thing up. Hollywood is in shambles. The Democrats, the deep state, the rhinos, they're all in huge panic. They
Oh
are
yeah.
trembling. There was something else I saw. What's her name? The congresswoman from California, Mad Max, Maxine Waters. Apparently, her staff is covering for her health issues. She's 87 years old, and she's got some sort of debilitating illness, but yet she's still casting votes, and creating laws for this country. And it's like, it's called retirement, folks.
Wow.
Check
Well,
into it.
especially when you have a track record like hers, where she has never done, that I'm aware of, a single useful, beneficial thing for this country. It's been all 100% destructive.
Yeah. She doesn't even live in her own district. She lives in a $5 or $6 million home on the other side of town. Make that make sense.
Well, okay, so yeah, so I mean, I think the conclusion of all this, thank you, baby, is that nothing is what it seems like. That and if you are running around saying nobody's getting arrested, I think that's the wrong energy to go into this with, because we were told by Q all these things, and all these things future proves past. So as you see things unrolling that Q told us about, like for me as a Yid, the what was it, the August 7th, October 27th or something, the massacre in Israel that Q
7th,
mentioned
yeah.
it like 5 years before it happened. There was a mention about the Israeli intelligence standing down. It just,
And Jonathan Kahn has a great discussion on how that lines up with biblical timing, that particular massacre as well.
yeah, I mean, my take on it is, if and this is why I had to leave the community. Really, is that if you think it's about Hamas and Israel, if you still think that this is, and in my community, that's their bread and butter. That's the way people exist. And I just kept screaming about, this is deep state. They're together. And I think that, when they say saving Israel for last, there's been a lot of posts lately saying they're really saying Iran for last, and Iran and Israel's are one and the same. It's just the deep state pretending to be Jewish, or the deep state pretending to be Iranian. Or I know today President Trump had the Lebanese prime minister, which I think is interesting, that he's lining up. He had the Iraqi guy and the Lebanese guy. But this is, if it just would drive me crazy, because people were like, Hamas. I'm like, these are the same friggin' people, man. This is the same force. This is the deep state pretending to be Israelis, like Bibi, or Hamas, or Hezbollah, or Iran. It's all one big club, and that's,
that's kind of the point I was going to make as well, is that what we're witnessing is the dismantling of the deep state and its infiltration through the U.S. government, through the Iranian government. That doesn't reflect the Persian people. It reflects a small percentage in charge of the government. It doesn't reflect the Israeli people. It reflects a small percentage of corruption in charge, and it doesn't reflect the American people. But it's this deep state dismantling through and through, and we've watched that. And we're under country number 4 now with Iran, and we've still got some wrap up and stuff to do in Cuba. But there's a lot of layers there, and especially when you start incorporating in, the central banks and so on. JP Morgan's sitting at 23 years this month on a contract that was in Iraq, because what do they do with the Marshall Plan? Position themselves in advance? Well, that's what they did back in 1895. It's what they did back in the 1790s. Move in, take over something, destabilize or program the currency, position themselves as the players, and then be the first ones to usher back in the door. It's really, the entire GDP of Iraq at what, 250 billion, something like that, is 1/19 of JP Morgan's assets. But you go back to J. Pierpont Morgan, in 1895 when the U.S. government was saying, "Hey, whoa, whoa, whoa," less than 2 decades before the Federal Reserve, saying, we're about out of gold. What's going to happen? And that's where you get basically the Rothschilds, or the Rothschilds spokesperson with Morgan, comes in and says, "Okay, well, we'll give you a deal, right? We'll sell you so many tens of millions of dollars, and here's the gold, and we hold on to the bonds." And what it's really doing is positioning themselves to be in space when things come back around, to be in the right spot when the door opens. What's different this time is you and I. We were never invited to this table, but for the first time, we have a chance to sit at this table and eat off of it a little bit when it comes in.
George Carlin said it best. It's a big club. You ain't in it.
You ain't in it.
Yeah, I wanted to touch real quick on similar topic, 13 bloodline families. These are people you probably never heard of outside of Rothschilds and Rockefellers, but the Astors, Bundys, Collins, DuPont. DuPont owns Delaware. I mean, if you weren't familiar with that, and who's originally from Delaware? Biden. Freeman, Kennedy, Lee with an L-I, Onassis, Russell, Van Duyn, Merovingian. I'm probably
Merovingians.
Yeah, and then the one that I didn't see on there, the Orsini's.
Orsini, right? Breakspear.
Ray Pope.
Well, and the Morgans and Vanderbilts.
Yeah, I mean, we could sit here all day and talk about people we don't even know, but they have remained in the shadows on purpose. They've been nobodies. They've stayed out of the limelight. They let Hollywood cast it and do whatever. These guys have been pulling the strings from behind the curtain for hundreds of years.
Oh yeah, the biggest wealth above all else buys anonymity.
And the Vatican and Washington and the city of London, they've been running the world with the vaccines, all this big pharma. I think of it as a hybrid. Apparently, a lot of these people are hybridized. We don't really know exactly what's going on. I think we will find out in the future. But they talked about Cain and Abel, about how Cain looked very different from Abel, that he had scales. I don't know. But anyway, this is, I think, also another thing that came up recently was they showed a list of the Council of 300. Did you see that? They showed the actual people in the Council of 300.
I heard something about it. No, I didn't see it.
It's on my stream somewhere on X, but they listed all 300 people. I mean, I didn't count it, but this really? Is unheard of. This is unheard of. These are the people who are running the world. These are the people who are, probably moving adrenochrome and heavily involved in all kinds of things, child trafficking that we don't even want to know about. I won't be able to.
The folks with the bunkers down in New Zealand.
Right.
The multi-million-dollar bunkers. They're waiting for the end of the world.
They're the ones running the Bilderbergs and the Trilaterals and the Molech owl worships and all this stuff. It's all interconnected. Dutch royalty is a big part of that.
Ndrangheta, have you run down that rabbit hole? Ndrangheta? It's a subset of the Sicilian mafia in Calabria. And they apparently have some organization that basically runs the politics all over the world, and none of the people who are in this committee know the other ones. It's it's just there's a shadow world. It's not even like a shadow government. It ekes into so many different aspects of our life, from big pharma to big media to education to the food you eat. Recently, Big Bird and I were talking about it, that the chemtrails have lessened. So it seems like the draining of the swamp and the pulling the plug on all these fraudulent funds that have been sent to these demonic players, it's affecting them. And it could be that there could be we're going back to real weather. I mean, the weather here is we've had humidity in the Mojave Desert for the last week. I'm just like, what is this, man? Am I back in New York now?
It's called the monsoon, Ellie.
Well, and we've got season
We
this
didn't
year.
have
They already
monsoons. In the last couple of years, we didn't get monsoons. We got chemtrails.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
And I'm glad you brought that up because I was actually talking with some like-minded folks where I work, and they said, "Hey, man, glad we saw you. Glad you're here today. Because like, have you noticed something lately?" And I said, "What? No chemtrails since July 4th?" Yeah, and they're like, "Dude, we saw it too." I'm like, "Yeah, if you just got to look up, those are not contrails." Okay, I'm gonna have to bring this up because this is another rabbit hole, man. Okay, so have you seen any of the videos where they're talking about how, these big jumbo jet aircraft carry something like 60,000 gallons of fuel in the wings, right? And then they go and show you what 60,000 gallons actually looks like, and then they park it next to the plane, and it's like, yeah, how do they get that into the wings? That doesn't make any sense. Well, so what the thought, all right, we'll just call it the conspiracy theory because we're getting our crazy hats on. What they're talking about is there's only 3 companies in the world that are allowed to manufacture jet engines, like for commercial aircraft, right?
and just to piggyback real quick, there are almost no one in the world who has the technology to be able to even manufacture and assemble the parts for those. Believe it or not, it's so complex. But carry on.
Right. So anyway, the thought process behind it is
But by the way, I just want to let the audience know you're dealing with people who are in the industry. These are guys who know. They're not just saying this stuff. They're in the arms businesses related to those things. So they really know what it's talking about. But yeah, the idea that the idea that apparently the technology sorry about that. The technology in the airplanes is an impossibility. It's just like you can't put enough fuel the way they present it to. Right? I mean, that's what you're saying.
Right. What I'm alluding to is, if you actually look, if you were to break down the wing of a jumbo jet aircraft, say a 747 or a 767, most of that is avionics. Okay, your flaps, your cowls, your forward slats. Those wings are made to be manipulated so that they can change the curvature, right, and increase lift. So the slower you go, they increase the curvature, so it's creating more lift at slower speeds. So then as you speed up, they start to flatten out, right? And then you're at cruising altitude at 35,000 feet. And so it just has a slight curvature, and that's what's keeping the aircraft aloft. Well, okay, so then you're trying to convince me that you've got this bladder that holds 60,000 gallons of jet fuel. It's thin, man. If you've ever looked at the anatomy of an airplane, you get down into the tube and you're looking the wings. It just doesn't make sense. So it lends itself to, there's technology out there, and I'll refer you to the 1961 Patent Act, where there's over 6,000 patents that are being kept under lock and key for the safety of national security. Yes, it's because they've got a monopoly on the game, and they don't want anybody else to have it. And that takes us back to those 13 bloodline families and all the billionaires that are running the world. The what did you call it, Ellie? The 300.
The Council of 300, I think it's called.
Right.
So, the Nutrangata and the Orsini's and who knows, but I think at the heart of it, and I think Montimus probably knows more about this than I do, but it's the Draco reptilians that are behind this and the Vril. I mean, you go back to Germany and before the Operation Staple Clip. The Germans were putting Vrils in their eyes so they could extract all this advanced technology that they took to Antarctica. I mean, this is a lot of woo-woo kind of thinking, but nothing makes sense in terms of the whole Tartarian picture and everything else of And the pictures of like talking about navigation of the air, the dirigibles, how do you say the inflatables, the big tanks. In the old pictures they have in Tartaria, they have these floating cities basically, and that was kind of outlawed in with the was it Heisenberg explosion or
Well, and some hangars that were built essentially for those hundreds of years before they existed. Yeah,
right?
I'm buying that.
And they were saying they were tying them up to like the Empire State Building and stuff. That was their mooring.
Yeah, they would refuel them there.
I don't know. Yeah, there's a lot we don't know, but let's go back to so I think we've established the idea that there's more to this than meets the eye. But what is behind the scenes seeming to happen is that there's a shift taking place, and the White Hats and President Trump and the White Hat military have positioned the economy in such a way that I think there's going to be. I'm curious to how you guys see it, but I think there's going to be kind of a slow, collapse. Maybe not so slow. They're saying that the Japanese are selling all their treasuries and all these other things and the Operation Sandman, where they're going to dump all the all these American currencies at once. But I don't know. I guess the thing that I've been wondering, and I'm sure a lot of people have been wondering, is when is the shift going to take place? There are a lot of people like myself and like probably many others who are really struggling and can't pay their bills, or I just stopped paying my bills. I just said, I'm out, man.
It's happening now, Ellie.
I think
I'll go ahead and I'll answer that question. It's happening now. So the Japanese reverse carry trade is in progress. It's 162 yen to the dollar. I wish the yen were that cheap when I was stationed in Japan. I mean, when I was there, it went anywhere between 70 and 110 yen per dollar. So the more yen to the dollar, the cheaper it is for me to go out in town and live. But then I also caught something else that
right,
really,
and that was a lot of people became rich and stayed rich in trading Japanese currency. Correct.
right.
I mean,
So
here's
the whole thing with the reverse carry trade. So for like the last 30 years, it was cheaper to borrow the yen and then go and invest it elsewhere and then live off of that interest and then pay back the loan as they went, right? And we're talking about hundreds of billions of dollars. Well, the chickens have come to roost. So now Japan is saying, hey, sorry about your luck, but the wealth is coming back to Japan now. And they are offloading all of the American bonds that they can possibly get, just get rid of them. And then I also want to point out something that caught my eye. The numbers out of Iran per percent. Currency is in free fall. Inflation estimated at 180%. So they're crashing these markets. It's going to happen. And we're probably going to have some moments where, I was talking with Tom Rodriguez, who's my metals guy from Swiss America. And he's like, well, he's asking me, he's like, Ned, what do you think is going to happen with the whole inflation rate? And I said, well, Tom, I don't think the rates are going to come down. I think they're going to go up and possibly could go as high as like what they were in the 70s, where it was around 20%. But then something's going to have to give in terms of, are we going to fire up the parallel system that's been running in the background for what I estimate to be the last 5 to 7 years? Or are we just going to completely collapse it? The Fed goes away and we move to the Treasury, and then we start issuing Treasury notes instead of Federal Reserve notes. And we're living on this interim currency that's being issued by the Treasury, run completely by the U.S. government and not a private bank, which is what the Federal Reserve is. So I see a couple of scenarios playing out. But what we're seeing now, Ellie, with the Japanese reverse carry trade, they carry like money, and correct me if I'm wrong here, they carry something like 2/3 of our debt. And so that could be
They carry an
catastrophic.
enormous amount of
I
it.
mean, it could bite us in the butt overnight.
They do. They carry an enormous amount of it, and them, working on dumping it in China and some other places working on dumping it. I can't help but wonder if that's part of the plan. So for a long time, it's been the $1 million question you just asked, right? The question in my mind is not, are we going to change over? The question is, are we going to have a slow, smooth transition, or are we going to have a crash? And at this point, and I'm gonna say I don't know. That's it. I don't know. Purely speculating. I think we're going to see a little bit of both. I think we're going to see the process that we're seeing now is a smoother transition that will likely give us a short-term crash. 3 weeks of, say, military, and Trump is not even visible. What happened to our president before this comes back around? Catalyst of it. But the transition, many people in the space have been speculating for years, if not decades, there needs to be some major event going on. Well, there's $114 trillion at play in what's going on right now with shuffling through the various things with the Middle East and the U.S. and what's happening with all of this reshuffling in world currencies. What's interesting is last week when the Iraqi delegations, you had 70 people come over, but really 24 delegates. They came over and spent a week with the Trump administration. They walked away with 48, 50, depending on who's counting, things that were signed. But what were they? Who was signing? Wasn't Zaidi. That's what we were kind of watching for, kind of expecting. Zaidi brought some numbers. He said, okay, we won't have any need for any of the, I'll just call them mafias, but any of the militias that are running around over their country after September 30th. So now there's a September 30th deadline on getting rid of them. That's 71 days away. And in the meantime, right now, Zaidi is going through Tehran. Well, that's kind of curious, right? There's people saying, oh, look, he's just another Iranian puppet, just like all the last ones have been. No, he's walking in there with demands, not questions. He's walking in there with a piece of paper that says, we're routing the oil around your country, not through it. Can we have it back? Because 90% of the oil has been running through Strait of Hormuz. And yeah, some of it's been escorted by U.S. ships, turning the transponders off, so it still looks like zero. Meanwhile, Iran has been saying, no, the strait's been closed for 2 months. Really since February 28th. So there's a lot of moving parts here, especially with what just happened with Karg Island and some things like that are going on. But the first thing is, let's back up. Who signed these deals? You had $60 billion on the table, and this is happening in the back room quietly. It's not happening in front of the cameras. While what? Trump is out there saying, okay, so we've got some things going on with election fraud, China, 220 million voter rosters, and Venezuela was modifying machines. We know all that, but back up on the calendar. That was Maduro. Maduro hasn't been around since January, which means they're opening the file cabinet of the country after the regime has already been removed. We're starting to witness this pattern over and over, and that's what we're about to see with Iran, this same pattern. But what you have sitting here with this $60 billion worth of deals are a handful of companies, Shell, ExxonMobil, right? There's quite a few more. So what are we building out of that? You're building the market. You're building the rails to drive the value up. It's not just government to government saying, okay, we're going to increase the value because this can't fail with the citizens. This is contracts with the countries to come in here and let's route the pipelines around and let's start pulling some of this up through Turkey. In the meantime, we're pulling some of our oil down out of Kurdistan. And by the way, we're bringing with us the numbers of 500,000 barrels a day for the United States. But ultimately what we're doing is we're stacking the rails so that the demand for the dinar is what's increasing over the next, I'm going to call it 60 days. So we're looking at 60 days seems like a slow ramp if you're struggling a little bit, but that's really pretty quick in the business world. That's what I think we're looking at. We're looking at the preparation to say, okay, let's start driving this up, because what we noticed back at the early part of July is that the Iraqi dinar actually untethered from the US dollar. Now it's only fluctuating up and down by, 2 or 3 dinar pennies, but it doesn't change the core system or the core idea that it has now effectively untethered and it is free to oscillate. So now you come in here, you build the rails, you bring the companies in, and you start pushing the demand for it at the same time that you just got done pushing through cryptos in Iraq. You just got done pushing through the Asakuda cross-border payment system. So all of a sudden the black market starts coming down, and we've seen that coming down, 3 or 4% just in the last few days. So over the next couple of months, I think we're going to see that demand and that market value start to shift a lot in preparation, setting the stage for this change. But does that mean that all these arrests and this cleanup that's going on over there and getting ready to start happening here while we're saying, hey, pay attention to this over here and watch what's happening behind the scenes over here at the same time in the United States, and a bunch of arrests getting ready to go. And now all of a sudden, oh, well, there's your big events. And you've got 3 different illusions going on at the same time, so nobody really notices what's going on behind the scenes, and now you get your 3 weeks of martial law.
Hey, real quick, I want to interrupt, Monty, not to take away your thunder here, but Michael David in the chat just said they just announced they're voting on the Clarity Act on the 29th. Happy birthday to me. Let's go, baby. Hey, and I also want to shout out to my girl, Nancy. Hi, Nancy.
So what I'm getting from this is that they're tightening the noose on the rebellion against this new. We're coming into a completely different system. It's not like we're going back. We're going to fix a few things, and Chase Manhattan will be back. We're coming into a completely new world that we don't. And so I think it's interesting, and I agree with Monty that it's going to be both. There's going to be like dramatic things, but it's all being orchestrated in such a delicate fashion. It is it's unbelievable. People don't even pay attention. We don't even know they're moving the ball so fast. It's kind of like the shell game of the evil ones. The way they would the way they now they're the Iranians, now they're Hamas, now they're the Israelis, now they're the Mossad. Now they're blowing up and you can't tell what they're doing because it's a transnational criminal organization.
But we can see them scrambling right now in all sorts of desperate measures.
Yeah. And I think that's the key point. But I think the White Hats are kind of reflecting this theater of transnationalism back at them. Because it's not coming from the United States. It's coming worldwide in Brazil and in India. All corruption has to be removed from all theaters in order for Jassara to be implemented.
Well, and Big Bird did a great job a while ago, just kind of hitting some of the high points. That we were, and so did you, Ellie, when we were talking about whether it's Council of 300 and Trilateral Commission, or whether it's, the Knights Templar. You go back through the reptilians, right? We're talking Nephilim, Daniel 2:43. They shall mingle themselves with the seed of men, but will not cleave one to another. Well, whatever they are, it's not the seed of men. We start looking at all of this, and then we start going through, right, what we were just talking about with these families that he's talking about, the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers and the Vanderbilts and the Morgans and all this kind of stuff. And you go down through this. Why did the Titanic sink? That was some of the names actually that you mentioned that were maybe on the ship, and a couple that somehow conveniently weren't, because there was a lot going on there. And this was 2 decades before the Federal Reserve Act. But really it boils down to one thing that we've been saying for a while: the average person does not know just how enslaved they are, and it's about to come open, and people are going to be like, I didn't even know air felt like this.
Right.
That's the key. That's really the main thing. Go ahead, Big Bird. I'm sorry.
To the point of the Rothschilds, and I don't think people really understand that most of that family is gone. I remember there was an X22 podcast, I want to say sometime in 2022, and it was highlighted that the Rothschilds were auctioning off their estate. And I was like,
yeah,
what? There's like one Rothschild left, and he is like trembling in the shadows. All the big hitters are gone.
There are a few of them left, but there's not any of the main players.
What's that?
Well, I heard
There
that
were a few of them left, but not really the heads as we're accustomed to knowing them.
Right, and my theory on that is either they were taken out, but more likely they saw what was coming and they just did themselves in.
Go ahead, Ellie.
Yeah, I was just going to just add that I read somewhere that the Rothschilds were heavily intermarried with the Orsini clan. So we don't know who these people are, but I will say that if you know who they are, like the Rockefellers, the Rothschilds, these are not these people are evil, but they're not. Like they talk about the gray pope and the black pope. These guys behind the scenes are pulling the shots, are causing plagues and vaccinations. And I mean, I'm absolutely stunned by the fact we have like some small dealings with the pharmaceutical industry today, but they're still advertising shots. I'm like, what? How asleep do you, I mean? It's just unbelievable to me that there are people who don't understand that
Sorcery. The word in scripture is sorcery, pharmakia. Yeah,
Yeah.
and you brought up the black pope, the Jesuit pope,
driving by themselves in their car with a mask on. I still see them.
Is that in Colorado? Yeah, I don't think we have. I don't think there are that many liberals in the area where I am. We do see masks, and
I appreciate those though, because they're literally, Bill Engvall, here's your sign. They're literally wearing a sign screaming at us. We don't even have to waste our time. Like, boom, you might as well be wearing a star.
Well, my beloved woman friend, she when she sees one in a grocery store with a mask, she's like, I'm not getting near those people. She'll walk around to the next aisle because they exude disease essentially. But
they're more sick, and I'm the weird person that walks up to them and politely says, "Hey, that thing actually reduces your immune system by 56%." Huh?
How do they react?
Most of them are like the groundhog that just saw a shadow. I've had a couple of them. I had one woman that was a checkout clerk at a convenience store, and she's like, "Really? Tell me more." And so I started talking to her a little bit about, the rebreathing and the harboring bacteria and reduction of oxygen and the carbon dioxide that you're actually building up in your system. And so in talking, she's like, "Thank you. I needed to know that." She literally took her mask off right then and threw it in the trash. And she's been wearing this thing for 4 years.
That's beautiful, man.
Kudos,
man. I'm chicken shit compared to you, Monty. I mean, I'm just like, like this. But you're right. I mean, if there's hope, there's hope. I mean, wake them up, man. I'm afraid they're going to hit me with the purse. I mean, not that no.
There's not enough testosterone with that purse to carry any weight.
Right. They don't have the cojones to really strike back. But yeah, that's interesting. Let's get back to crypto started to show signs. Is it possible that we've? Oh, and what? I want to share this. This is my. I want to share this screenshot just for a minute. This is the XLM chart for today. I think it's a monthly chart. I mean, it's not a like the last 5 minutes, but I believe that's called a bull flag. And at some point, as it narrows down, it can't get any narrower, and it explodes upward at a tremendous velocity.
You're getting what's called consolidation, Ellie. It's consolidating down into that little wedge, and then it's going to do one of two things. And 9 times out of 10, it goes that way.
Right. So the question, I've been holding
XLM. You said,
yeah, that's XLM. I've been holding these cryptos for at least 5-6 years, and I've been thinking to myself, that next week, tomorrow, very soon it's going to the moon. So we've been hodling for a long time. Do you think I mean, it seems like Big Bird is kind of thinking this way, that this could be the real the time when it really goes up. I like that they've shaken out all the loose, all the what do you call them? I know there's the diamond hands and the what are the other hands? The
Well, you've got if you've got diamond hands, you pretty much holding for long term. What I see happening, and this is kind of just me gathering different opinions from people in person and online. What I'm seeing is the pattern is starting to develop where when it starts to go up, we're going to hit $5, and then you're going to have the people that are like, oh, finally, now I can get my money back, and they sell. We're going to have a little bit of a dip, and then it's going to shoot up to $10. And by the way, I'm just pointing out arbitrary numbers. But for example, it'll shoot up to $10, and that's when people are going to be like, ha, made my million, I'm out. And they're going to get out, and then it's going to dip, and then it's going to go back up. And we're going to see that pattern go until we hit, 50, 80, $100. And then what we might see it settle down a little bit. But then as more infrastructure starts to come online, for example, those countries that I was rattling off at the beginning of the podcast, where, Japan, Russia, India, China, they already have a lot of that infrastructure in place. When they start coming online, and by the way, Japan is huge. Originally, the post went something like all banks in Japan will be utilizing XRP by 2025. But then that was revised closer to 2025 to 80%. But that is still huge. And think about it, and we were just talking about how much debt had they bought up from the U.S. And now the chickens have come to roost, and they're going and getting rid of all of that U.S. debt, and they're bringing everything back home so they can bring the yen back down. And now they're going to be utilizing that XRP, and you've got all these banks. So you're going to see this. If you were to look at it on a long enough timeline, you're going to see this parabolic curve as it goes up. I really want to believe the hype and the rhetoric online that XRP is going to be most efficient when it hits thousands of dollars, potentially $10,000. I would love to see that happen. So for anybody out there that has, let's say, 100 XRP and it goes to $10,000, congratulations, you're a millionaire.
right, and my take on it is don't sell it all. Sell a little bit, but I mean, I don't understand. There's no way in my mind that I can justify anything less than $100,000. But it's just a matter of time. If Bitcoin, a worthless thing backed by Tether and the like, and I wanted to ask you guys about what you thought about the Tether and the Bitcoin thing, because I've been wrong about Bitcoin for years. I just years ago I heard in the kind of XRP army that Bitcoin is worthless, and it hasn't been. It's been a lot of people have made a lot of money on it, but I still am afraid to invest in something that's backed by Tether.
Well, I want you to think about this, Ellie. Out of all the cryptocurrencies, which one holds the most gold? Tether. Tether owns the most gold.
I thought it was fiat. I thought it was fiat.
No, they own physical gold. Tether is that they played it smart, and as much as I like Circle, which is like the USDT digital twin, Circle is having all kinds of problems. They didn't meet the MiCA regulations in Europe, so they missed the grace period, so they got booted out. So Circle's having all kinds of problems, whereas Tether, and I've never really been a big fan of Tether. I think it could just be due to the exchanges. They like charging exorbitant amounts of fees for USDT, which I don't find fair. And faith takes you far. I see your question. I'll get to that in a second. I kind of want to wrap up what we're talking about here.
The real estate question.
As far as Bitcoin, I've got two schools of thought on Bitcoin. One, I think it's trash. It's slow. The fees are astronomical. BTC does not stand for Bitcoin. It stands for Beta Test Coin. It was the first crypto that really hit the market. It had a finite number for a reason, and well, the deep state got a hold of it along with all the pedophiles, and it was used for nefarious reasons. Now, because it is on a blockchain, there was also supposedly there were files that were attached to the blockchain on Bitcoin that were associated with Jeffrey Epstein and a lot of other big players that were, begging him for money or, paying him for adrenochrome and kids. It's
Yeah,
really
some
sad,
background
but
files
that's,
on
that's
those.
the truth.
By the way, the U.S.
So,
dollar is actually still the number one trade for criminal trafficking in funding, even over Bitcoin. But you're right, absolutely right. And a lot of those coins, those blockchains are containing extra data, shall we call it?
Yep. Ellie, any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I brought up the topic, but I think utility. I mean, in general, the way I see the new world, I think the new world, the divine order. I mean, this is kind of comes from my background from studying mystic Yiddishkeit for many years, but that the divine world runs on purpose, on having a sense of purpose. And if you have a coin like Bitcoin that doesn't really have a purpose, and you have something like XRP that does things in milliseconds, you don't have the mining aspect, you don't have this loosey goosey stuff. In the new world, in this next, the Great Awakening, purpose is everything. I mean, we live up here. I mean, I was thinking today, I'm retired now from my job as a public school teacher, but now I'm really working. It's like I mean, when you live in the real world, which I feel like off grid is kind of a real world. It's a real deal world. You can't screw up. You make a mistake and you don't have water, or you get blown off the mountainside, or you get stuck. The idea of divine purpose of at utility, I think, is so important to XRP and XLM as well. I think I've read a lot of things about this, and I really am excited about the idea of tokenization of assets, that you and I will be able to, we'll send each other a text and say, did you see about the pavilion that was just sold? They just sold the Taj Mahal. Did you buy any? Did you buy into it? Or it's just like the world is going to be so exciting, and we won't be just sideline people that, like my father would always say. He says, "Don't go in the stock market." He says, that's for the big guys. You're gonna get hurt there. It's not going to be like that in the new world. It's not going to be for the big guys. It's going to be for everyone. You could be in Ghana. You could be in the off here in the middle of nowhere in the Mojave Desert, and you have Starlink, and you could be trading unbelievable things. And
the problem with things like the stock market is that it is so big that it is at least half fake. You've got big players and big money and big fakes pushing all sorts of things, and nothing you get is real. That's really what it boils down to. It's not the stock market itself that's the problem. It's that the stock market is not for the average person who's not into the manipulation games and have the big money to throw around, and the fakes and the derivatives and stuff like that.
Yeah, I know when I first got into the stock market, I saw there were people who followed the whales, and the whales would all dump their things at 3 a.m, and they based their whole portfolio on following the whales. This is like trickery. But in the next world, I think we're going to have real value and real assets, and really everyone will be involved. It's so exciting to be part of this. But I think I agree with Big Bird. I think it is happening. I don't know, every time I get excited, like it's it, man. I mean, a few months ago, crypto started going up, and I was just, Yeah, I was just really excited. This is it. But it's it's going to be this is an educational experience, I think, for humanity, and we will be reorienting ourselves into the republic and into divine law and into all this, like Monty says about the stock market. The stock market is full of all this manipulation that a regular person isn't interested in. They're just like, well, I want to buy SpaceX because it makes sense. But they're not aware. Even with our assets with the ISO 222 coins, there's a lot of manipulation that's taking place, and there's no price. What do they call it? Price opening up or price question, or there's no. We don't really know what any of these things are worth because they're manipulating everything so heavily.
I think you're referring to initial price offering, IPO.
IPOs, and if you want to know,
not IPOs, but the price discovery. I'm talking about
okay.
There's no discovery. We don't really know because there's so much manipulation.
Well, and that right there, even just piggybacking on that, even though you weren't talking about IPOs, but that's one of the things that tells you what's playing the game, who's playing the game. Because there are layers such as, certain IPOs, things like that the average person simply is not even allowed to purchase into. That said, much like I was talking about a while ago, right? The game that's going on with, say, the Dinar, and eventually with the Real, with what's going on right now with the Real crashing, I think it's going to be, in my opinion, likely an opportunity. Will it be this week? No. Will it be probably multi-years down the road? Yeah, quite possibly, because you're looking at the second largest gas reserves in the world, and the Persian people that want to rebuild. I mean, there's a few years in the process there, but I think that's something that's coming up. But when you look at this 23 years this month in the contract that you had 7 banks coming in, and JP Morgan's holding the holding on it, with 100 million and then 250 million in backed insureds from 2003. This whole thing that is wrapping up is sitting there, with their hand open, saying, "Yep, we're the ones. We were here all along. This is what we were here for. We just didn't want you to know about it, so we told you it was a scam." But for one of the first times in a long time, the average player has an opportunity to get in there, and we can dabble in it. And the stock market is kind of the same way. I bought a Z28 T-top at one point with cash I made off of trading money in the stock market. But you have to play smart for where you are. You can't mix in tumbling around with the big dogs if you're not one of the big dogs, because they're just going to manipulate it and eat you for lunch, unless you've got enough people like you had with the gamer thing to come back and actually override and push those shorts and stuff.
Yeah, I think it's the diamond hands. I think it's, for me, the way I invest is that I see something with a real value, with a real purpose. I buy it and I hold. But I just want to remind people, just because I bought a gram of gold this morning, that for like under $200, that this is a tiny amount of gold, but I can't. We live. We're off gridders. I don't have like such an active income, but that people do. In my opinion, should still be stacking silver and gold. That it's not too late. I don't think the market has opened up at all.
So on that, real quick, because I really want to answer Faith's question, because it pertains to real estate, and that's important too, because that plays into the financial realm. When I was talking to Tom Rodriguez from Swiss America, he said right now, given where silver went and where it's at now, so we hit a high of $120. I think it's sitting at $55 right now. This is prime time to be buying silver. Do not be like the average Joe that, they're sitting around drinking their morning coffee, eating their cornflakes, and they see Jim Cramer on ABC News, morning news, like, "Oh yeah, hey, the stock market's doing great now. If you haven't bought silver, it's at $100. You really need to buy silver." Yeah, you should have bought it when it was $20, $30. Now it's back at $55. This is a prime time to be buying silver. Don't wait. Even if it's just 1 ounce, get some silver. That's just my 2 cents. Friendly advice. I'm not a financial advisor. This isn't financial advice. But going back to faith, and I really want to answer this, the real estate market. Look, uh, there's realtors that are out on social media saying, look, there's a surplus. The numbers are huge. Houses are not moving. I mean, I live in a pretty respectable area in Colorado, and there's homes up and down the street that have been for sale for 6, 8, and in some cases 12 months.
And they're
They're not.
bubbled. They're inflated.
Well, it's overinflated. These prices, people can't afford it. Not to mention the fact that you've got interest rates anywhere between 5.9 and 8.9%. And if you've got lousy credit, guess what? You're eating the 8.9%. So you're looking, if you buy a $700,000 home, you're looking at like a $4,000 a month mortgage payment. Who can afford that right now? I mean, unless you're making $250,000 a month or $250,000 a year. I don't know what to tell you, but now take it a step further. There is such a problem with these people that are squatting in homes that just haven't made their mortgage payment in 6 to 12 months. And the banks are like, there's thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of these homes across the country. And the banks are like, yeah, we could foreclose on it. And then what? And then we have to carry that load, and we're going to drive ourselves into shutdown. Do you think the banks want to do that? No. So they're letting these people live in these homes rent free. And I'm not condoning that you stop paying your mortgage, but there is a huge real estate bubble. I think that what we're going to experience is 2008 on steroids. It's going to be so catastrophic that people are. I mean, the whole market's just going to go upside down.
Oh yeah, I think there has to be a correction. It's artificially inflated. It's a surplus. Her next question, follow-up question, is what about selling? And again, I also not a financial advisor. If you can move it in the current market, my thought would be move it in the current market. Take it, sit on it, because when there's a correction, then get it again. Real estate historically has been a great investment. But I mean, like anything, investments work better when you sell while it's high and then turn around and buy while it's low.
Yep.
There's a couple other questions I also saw in there, wanted to address. Somebody said, I heard we won't be able to buy XRP.
I was just going to get at that one, man.
Oh, good. Because you'll have more to say about it than I will. But XRP in general is it's one layer of a multifaceted layer that's targeted more toward bank level. But at the same time, that doesn't mean that you won't be able to buy it either. But
For now. So
Yeah.
I want you to think XRP's been around since 2013. And they've had to rely on selling it to the public to generate revenue, right? Because if you were to turn to a central bank that hey, we want to sell you this XRP, they're going to look at you and be like, why? Our system's working just fine. Why do we want to buy that? So then they opened it to the public. And so if you do hold XRP, I think there's a very strong possibility. And the sentiment amongst the whales, and when I say whales, I'm talking about people that are holding massive amounts of crypto that have been in the game for longer than I have been, and I've been in it for over 13 years. The sentiment amongst the whales is, there's a very strong possibility that they could rewrite the rules where if you hold it, you get grandfathered in, and then you could potentially become a banking system or some sort of financial entity. Because, when it goes to $10,000, if you're holding, let's say 50,000 XRP, you're a billionaire. Yeah, you're in a position to start lending people money. But then they're going to want to turn that off to the public, because then there's going to be more and more competition flooding the market, and they don't want to have that. They want to keep it, to a certain circle. So, Beatrice, I hope that answered your question.
There was another question on there as well about, will the white hats take over the stock market? And again, I don't have a crystal ball that's working, at least, but the stock market, by definition, minus the manipulation, is supposed to essentially be a free trade of portions of value in companies. somebody who's operating as, let's just say, a white hat, by definition, is not somebody who's supposed to be taking over in a socialist type fashion. So no, I don't see that. There may be some rooting out of corruption. There may be some market corrections and things like that. But I don't see in any way where somebody who's actually legitimately coming in doing something for good is actually going to take over. Because, I mean, other than taking over the exchange, what are you taking over, the stocks? You know, it's something where you have the choice to buy into portions of a company. That's my opinion on it.
Yeah, maybe I'm just gonna do a little shameless promotion just for a second, and you guys can read the questions. I just want to encourage everyone, if you have health issues, please reach out to Dr. Stacy. You can get these patches. They put nothing in your body. They reflect your own light back into your system. We now have an X2O water machine, which is a life changer for me anyway. I have a few extra age years on me, and as a result of using X39 and all these other patches and using the water machine, I sleep through the night. I don't get up at night. It is, for somebody my age, 71, that's a miracle. I don't have to take naps anymore, and life is, I'm 71 years old. I'm building my own house out here in the Mojave Desert. I don't know how many other people can say that. I know there are a lot of people who insist on staying healthy, but this is a piece of the puzzle that you can call Dr. Stacy. She's an expert. She will deal with your individual situation. She will tell you what patches to invest in, and to me, it's like an investment in health is an investment like in crypto. It's just my health is wealth. If you're healthy, if you don't. I used to have back pain. I used to, all these things. You have to have nap all the time, and certainly was constantly going to the bathroom. And now I'm just like, it's embarrassing to say, but hey, man, I sleep through the night. I'm 71 years old. How many people can say that? So check out the patches. Call Dr. Stacy. She's there. She's brilliant. She's wonderful. She'll get you going in 2 minutes. She'll get back to you. Leave a message, but. Yeah, I just wanted to run that by that's under the category of shameless promotion. But I just got taken off of YouTube again, and we are struggling up.
Damn it, YouTube.
Yeah, but we're making it. And I also wanted to add one little thing. Okay, so that I want to put that up, but I also wanted to add that Danielle and I were looking for real estate in Arizona back 2 years ago, and we looked on Zillow, and the houses were astronomically expensive for houses that we really didn't want to live in. So I just want to encourage everyone who has a forward spirit, who is brave, that buying a piece of land and settling it is it's a lot of fun. It's hard work, but it is. We love our life up here.
I love that song, Buy Dirt. And back to your other thing, you were talking about the X39. I know the stem cell patch frequencies and stuff. And I can tell you as a health coach, because that's one of the things that I do, it so frustrates me that so many people will not take care of their health. It takes too much time, too much money, but yet will spend the vast majority of what they earned in their life within the last 5 years trying to get it back. It's a wealth siphoning system. The whole medical system is a wealth siphoning system. So instead of spending all that money in the last few years wishing you had your health back, because people make all this money and make that the priority, not that that's a problem, but it shouldn't be the priority. Your health is your priority, because people will give up almost any amount of wealth for their health ultimately.
Thanks, Monty. Appreciate it. Do you want to? Should we start wrapping it up? I mean, I just want to say you guys are brilliant, man. I am having such a good time. This is like strawberry pie, or maybe peach pie, maybe a peach pie. We don't get many fancy desserts up here, so I spend a lot of time dreaming about having somebody up here who's a really good chef. We're looking for somebody who wants to join us. So if you happen to be a pastry chef and can deal with. We're mostly carnivore and kind of mixed carnivore. We grow our own vegetables, we grow our own fruits. Everything's organic up here. So if you have somebody, and we also we take the time to broadcast. We're heavily involved in broadcasting. We have Starlink. So if you're one of those people that is looking for a way out of the matrix. I mean, my friend James, who runs the agricultural projects up here, he just came and on the way up the road, which is not an easy drive, I stopped the car and I just asked him if he was all right. He didn't admit to me how hard it was for his little car to get up the road, but he said, I feel like I'm out of the matrix already. So you don't, and if you're in, and I'm not saying this to say like, oh, well, we're out of the matrix and you're not. It's like, if you're in the matrix, that's where God wants you to be right now. And as long as you're aware of these things and aware of what that really means and how it affects your life and what choices you can avoid once you understand that you're not bound by these evil Orsini type, Rothschild type players. But anyway, do you guys want to just kind of like wrap this up? I know I really enjoyed the time with you guys, and this is a weekly show. We do it every Tuesday, but I think the commentary today from you guys was up there. I can't imagine that there could be any show that would have better information than this.
Well, that's awesome. I appreciate the time in your show and opportunity to be here. And I see, by the way, Urban Prepper says he's actually currently watching on YouTube.
Oh, that's interesting. So maybe the YouTube is work. I think they just put me in the bad boy seat for a while, but maybe I am broadcasting. Well, that's great. So we're back. I mean, but they gave me a strike, which is in the past has been like a prelude to more scrutiny. So I guess I just listen. I was telling James, and James has been following this channel for many years. He says they're always taking you down on YouTube, and then you're going for a couple of months, and then you pop up somewhere else. So I should be used to it, but I still get freaked out when they censor me. I guess we lost Big Bird.
Yeah, I was just wondering that. Maxine Waters. Yeah, I'm not going to vocalize that, but I think that's a pretty good description, actually. That's pretty funny.
Thanks for the compliment. I'm in my new studio, so I haven't really adjusted to the sun aspect yet, but Monty, and I'm sorry Big Bird isn't here right now, but I really appreciate you coming on, your expertise and your refinement and your obviously years of I know I've spoken to Montimus about his research. He's relentless like me. I mean, who like me? I joined the Hasidic community for 25 years just because I wanted to find out about it. Who does that kind of thing? But Montimus is on a similar level. He will spend years researching, all kinds of things. I remember, by the way, when I was in educational research when I was in Nashville. I was trying to make it as a musician. I used to wander around the Vanderbilt Library for hours and hours and hours, just looking at, trying to figure out what the hell is going wrong here. And I think we're getting more and more pieces to the puzzle, so we can try to figure out what really went down.
I think that's a good place to wrap up summary right there, because that's really what we're doing is we just keep bringing in pieces to the puzzle, and got a little piece over here and a piece here, and the more we plug it together, the more we get a picture, and that picture is starting to formulate, not just where we are, but where we're headed into. And so I got to tell you, I'm frustrated with some things about where we are, but I'm pretty excited for the next 7 years.
That's terrific. Well, that's great to hear. I'm gonna close out with the tune. This is a song I wrote in Nashville. I like to do this. I think it sets a nice tone. Let me see if I can do this without too much. Let's see, how do I do this? Okay, let's try this. Living in the city,
I was paying down my bills. One flat tire and the whole thing went to hell. Credit cards for groceries, I'm deep in debt again. It's time to split this scene, walk with you, my friend. Leaving the matrix, heading for the promised land. They stole our, but they couldn't stop the plan. Let's go together, playing with the band. Leaving the matrix, we're heading for the promised land. Stopped paying taxes, your insurance I don't need. The medicines are killing us, hospitals grow like weeds. Moved into paradise, I don't need no gassy cars. Fake news, endless wars, a satanic legal bar. Leaving the matrix, heading for the promised land. They stole our money, but they couldn't stop the plan. Let's go together, playing with the band. Leaving the matrix, heading for the promised land. My friends all tell me I lost control. Left my wife and job just to run down rabbit holes. But I can tell you one thing about my fall. Where we go one, we go all. Leaving the matrix, heading for the promised land. They stole our money, but they couldn't stop the plan. Let's go together, playing with the band. Leaving the matrix, heading for the promised land. Leaving the matrix, we're heading for the promised land.
Clever lyrics.
Yeah, Ellie, that was awesome, man. Was that you?
Yeah, that's my tune. Yeah.
Yeah, I saw the artist on there was his name.
So yeah, actually, I just want to mention this. There's another song called the Great Awakening that I've been working on for years, and I really want to have it produced. There's a guy up here on the ranch here, out in the middle of nowhere, who has a sound studio in his place, and he's from a very he was part of REO Speedwagon. He was their engineer on the road, and we're hoping that he'll help us engineer this last piece. But he had, and I don't want to get into details, but I do want to send him, if he's listening to the channel, I want to send you blessings for a speedy recovery. He had a little run-in with a reptilian, like not the Draco kind, and we hope that he has a speedy recovery. And we're looking forward to doing our next song with you. So I just wanted to mention that. But Big Bird, did you have any last things you wanted to mention?
yeah, I had a network interruption, and I think that's why I had to dip out. I had to go reset my router. I think it was maybe a network attack by the 3-letter agency because I'm probably saying too much. Maybe I'm over the target. I don't know. It was rather ominous, but no, folks. Look, if you're not into crypto, now's the time to get into crypto. I can't emphasize it enough. I was telling Tom Rodriguez, my metals guy from Swiss America, look, now's the time. Otherwise, you're going to be on the outside looking in, and you're going to wish you knew about this stuff, 5-10 years ago, maybe even 5-10 days ago. I mean, it's coming, and it's coming fast. So I implore you, watch some YouTube videos. Go let your fingers do the walking on the internet. Go to coinmarketcap.com, which is like the online encyclopedia for crypto. Don't hold anything in your name. If you can, get a cold storage wallet. I mean, I will be here for another hour if you let me talk, Ellie, but that's just it in a nutshell. Okay.
Cool. Okay, yeah. So get your crypto, get your silver, get a little gold, and just hold on, man, because we're going for an incredible ride into a whole new world. It's going to be a world of purpose, and the Republic will be there. I before we break, let me just remind everyone: if you haven't joined the Republic yet, please get involved in your local government. I'm the bailiff for Mojave County, and it's an exciting part of my week to spend some time with my brothers and sisters working on settling. We just settled our Republican Mojave County. It's really exciting to be involved in local politics that aren't tainted with, criminal negligence and not even negligent, criminal, hostile criminal invasion from these creepazoid cannibals. So anyway, have a great week, and we look forward to seeing you guys next week. May the force be with you. Use the force. Know that you are the force. Like Big Bird says, man, be a player. Be out there. Invest. Take chances. Buy some real. We got that. That's Marky. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Hey, Marky. So, so get out there, do it, use the force, know that you are the force, use source, know that you are connected to source. You don't need to go through any hocus pocus. All you got to do is just talk to God, man. I mean, the thing that I was going to mention from the beginning of the show was that we went to Sedona to contact the ETs last Saturday, and Ishmael Perez was led this whole group, and his beautiful mate Monica led this whole thing to call in the Galactics, and it rained, and the police chased us away, and it seemed very disappointing. But I want people to know that I saw a light, man, and so did James. James and I were like, I don't know what there was a light above us. So there is stuff going on. It is a phenomenal new world we're entering. Let source be your guide. Just allow yourself to flow through life without so much worry and thought about it. Just allow things to take place. If you kind of like let go and let God, everything falls in place. Again, thank you guys for joining us. Thank you, Mark, for coming and gracing us with your presence. And let's get out there with a big smile on our face and rock the world.